Welcome to the Heart of Fauquier podcast. Here you'll learn the stories and tips from local business leaders and entrepreneurs who make up the heart of the community. Discover what makes Fauquier so wonderful and be inspired by the journey of local success stories. Now let's join Austin, owner of Bedrosian Cleaning Services, as we hear from today's special guest.
Welcome to the Heart of Fauquier podcast. I'm your host, Austin, and today's special guest is Keith Puffenbarger. I'm excited to get to hear a little bit about his story. I've heard pieces of it from other people, and I know he's done a lot for this community. But first of all, Merry Christmas. This will be released on Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And then this is Christmas week, so that's why I have the fun sweater and everything. But just to get started with things, since it is Christmas week, this is just kind of a fun question. What kind of fun Christmas traditions do you have? Or family traditions or anything fun that you guys do?
If you will, well, I don't know if it's fun, but it's fun for our West Virginia Puffenbarger family gets together and we meet. And we've already actually had Christmas Eve yesterday. Usually it's Christmas Eve. My wife and I actually get on a plane on Christmas Day.
Okay.
Fly to Colorado, where we're fortunate to have a home.
Yeah.
And we have 2 children, and our daughter out there is married, and we got 2 little grandkids that are 8 and soon to be 12, and they both love Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this year's the first time we've actually leaving on Christmas Eve. So on Christmas morning, we'll get to see them open up their Christmas gifts from Santa Claus. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. My wife and I were actually just last night looking at houses and stuff in Colorado just for fun.
Sure.
And it's amazing out there. Some of the views are incredible.
Yeah.
Real mountains and stuff like that. So
Yeah, well, they're the real mountains, but where we are, it's the real Eastern Plains.
Okay.
So it's flat, but the sunrises and sunsets are beyond description, and we're 30 miles from the closest gallon of gas or gallon of milk, and it's very, very private. Our closest neighbor, other than our kids and grandkids, are 3 miles away.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just another ranch. So
Wow.
It's a whole different world, but we enjoy it. Yeah,
That's so cool.
I've got wireless connectivity, so I can still stay connected to the business and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, that's amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's start talking a little bit about your business. You've owned it for quite a while now.
Right.
When did you get started, and what are the businesses you own?
Well, I actually started in the industry over 44 years ago. I was 18 months out of high school, got in the insurance industry, worked for a small domestic insurance company, which I really enjoyed, was there for 13 years. But then subsequently just decided I wanted to, had that entrepreneurial spirit, wanted to own my own business, started completely from scratch, and proceeded to go broke in about 6 months.
Oh my.
Going through all my savings, etc. So to say it was a challenge, it was, but we stuck to it. And kind of fast forward to today where we have 3 locations and there's 23 people working with us. I don't like to use the word employees.
Yeah.
We're all equal. I don't like an organizational chart that has me at the top and everybody below. Everybody's the same. We all have a great part in it. And now we actually do business in 6 states in the District of Columbia. So a little difference in the 31 years since we started it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that happened right away, right? You know,
Overnight success. Overnight success took years.
Yeah.
But initially, it was just my wife and I for almost 3 years.
Okay.
And then we were finally able to hire our first staff person, if you were. And then we started investing in people because I realized early on it wasn't going to be about me. It was going to be about the people that I associate and surround myself with. And as a gentleman told me years ago, he said, "Keith, just hire people smarter than you." And so I started doing that. So I wasn't a college graduate, so I started surrounding. All my key people have college degrees. A couple have masters. So, I've got some really, really bright people around me. And they've all helped me through the process. So it's been a true team effort.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Right before we started filming this or recording this, you said something about mentorship and how you've had some great mentors in your life. At what point did you start seeking mentorship, or when did they come into your life on this journey?
Well, it was interesting. I'm probably 9 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a gentleman at the church we went to that I was in a boys' Sunday school class. And we were 9 and 10-year-olds. And he had his own family, but he used to take us on Sunday afternoons to go play football with us. And he engaged us and I learned a lot about my faith just through him. But then it just proceeded. It was either baseball coaches, some teachers,
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I really started seeking out mentors. And generally they were people that were older than me, that had experiences, etc. And I wanted to learn. I guess you could say I didn't want to learn everything the hard way, because that's unfortunately, they say the most expensive college is a school of hard knocks. And
right.
I can tell you that for sure. But there was times that I really wanted to reach out. And there's just been people that's come in my path that's just been huge sources of success. And I'm in the middle of some decisions now, and I've actually reached out to 4 mentors. And they're not all older than me now.
Yeah.
But they do have different skill sets that I don't have. So I reach out to them and ask them questions. And the nice thing about it, they'll give me honest answers, and at the same time, they'll ask me the hard question, which I need to hear. So yeah, so it's that's one thing I would suggest for all people, is you get a mentor in different aspects of not just business, but whether it's faith or your personal life or whatever the case may be. Right. And quite frankly, my wife is a mentor to me. So she allows me to ask her questions. She gives me good input. She supports me. So it's not just always that person that's that's older or has more experiences, but
right.
It sure does help. But I remember the first person I reached out to was when I started in the industry. I went to this gentleman who owned a couple businesses, was extremely successful, and I asked him, I said, what's the key to success? Because I wanted it then, right? And he said, he started to answer my question. I go to get a pen and a paper, and he said, no, you always remember this. And he says, whatever you do, Keith, don't major in the minors. And it took me a lot of years, Austin, before I figured that out, but I realized that I have strengths, but I also have weaknesses. But instead of trying to improve my weaknesses, I found people who that was their strength.
Right.
And then it brought them into the business. And so therefore, that's why it's got to be a team. There's no I in team. It is truly a team. So that's what I did. I would find people that could do things better than me in other aspects and pull it together. So.
Right.
And that's really what helped the business grow. And then as time went by, we were able to make acquisitions and venture out and take more risk, or like yourself, it's I teach this to especially young people. Who says you never grow till you get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so my life has been a series of getting out of my comfort zone, and sometimes I failed, but failure, it's the old book, Failing Forward.
Yeah. So
failure is never final. I learned things from it, but in many cases it was successful, whether in whole or in part. So I've always enjoyed that part of business, or like I say, other things in my personal life.
Right. Would you mind sharing one of those failures that you had to learn from?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just had this discussion. So in my early 30s, when I was starting the business, I'd only been in it a few months, I saw an opportunity to put 2 of my mentors together. One who was a builder and one who was a land developer, because you could kind of see what was happening outside of Charlottesville and moving out that way, and I helped put that together, and it wasn't a good thing. Those 2 gentlemen, while they were fine men, didn't get along. Okay. And I barely got out with my shirt on, so to speak, right? And I promised myself then that I probably would never, and I haven't ever had a full-time partner. Right. Through my faith, I have a partner. Mm-hmm. But I would never have another person as a partner. And I said, I might not make as much money by not having another partner, but when it came right down to it, I wanted to be the decision maker. So after gathering information, whether it's from mentors or the people that I work with, I wanted to be in the position of making that final decision. Yeah. So it was a great lesson to learn early on, and so that's the way we've done it since then. We do have some interest in some other businesses, but only from an investment standpoint. It's not from a where I'm actively engaged. So, right. At any rate, so that was one very valuable lesson. I'm glad I learned it early on.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to do that on the really big stuff,
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have heard that before with partnerships. They can be really great, but oftentimes you have to be really careful and selective. Absolutely. Usually, at least what I've seen for myself, my best partnership is my wife. Yes. And you've mentioned the same thing with you and your wife. So obviously that's great, but sometimes in business it can get a little iffy if it's not the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good for a lot of people. It just
Yeah.
doesn't fit me as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What would you say, so obviously you've mentioned mentors that you've had. I also know that you've worked on mentoring other people. What would you say is, why do you see that as so important, and what kind of people have you sought out to mentor, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So church related, 18 to 20, 22-year-olds, I've been able to I don't like to use the word teach because I don't think I'm a good teacher. I think I'm a great leader of discussion.
Yeah.
But also to take my sets of experiences when they've asked and be able to mentor them. But more specifically to the business is I have some key leadership people in the business, and they will be the people that'll take the business forward. So I think as I'm mentoring them because to be a good steward of this business, I won't be in it forever, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, hopefully it's because I choose to retire, right? But I won't be in it forever. So trying to mentor that next generation so that they can move the business forward. And I hope I live long enough to see them do things that I can only imagine or dream about. And so that's the excitement for me, is to watch them do that. And it's been an intentional mentorship program, actually. We probably started about 7 years ago. Okay. And it's been by doing things in part to the point now where basically all I do is work on the business some. They really work in the business. They run the business. They manage and lead, our staff, etc. So it's a rewarding experience to watch that. It's frustrating, because they do things different than I do. Right. But then as I've realized that they probably do them better. So, yeah.
And like you said earlier, one piece of wisdom you got was don't major in the minors.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's kind of another piece of it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I'm not good at, again, I can't, it's, you manage things, you lead people, and I always wanted to lead by example. Right. So whether it was the ability to work hard, but also work smart, it's the ability to set a goal. I never wanted to be just a dreamer. I wanted to turn those dreams into goals. So for years, and even now, but more importantly in the younger years coming up, I had written goals, that were broken down from yearly to monthly to weekly to daily. And I found that when I followed those goals and truly committed to them and believed in them, we achieved them. And so from a personal standpoint, that was very rewarding. It's a little more difficult, to lead others to do that because, a lot of folks just don't like to do that. I've always said that, the successful person will do the things that an unsuccessful person won't. And 95% of the people in our country don't have goals. Right. And that's sad because, it's that achievement. It's not really the goal itself. It's the striving for. It's the stumping your toe. It's blood in your nose. Yeah. But then at the end of it, attaining it, that's really the process is the rewarding part of it. And then when we'd hit that goal, then we would set a new goal, for the next year. And that's not just business, that's also personal, faith, family, etc. Because I found early on that I could work all the time, but I really needed to make sure I scheduled time for my family, which is something else that, I think your audience should know, especially if you're in business, because when you have children, and now I've got grandchildren, I want to make sure that I'm allotting time for them as well, because at the end of the day, the relationships is much more important than the business will ever be. Right. Yeah.
What are some practical ways that you do that and set aside time away from business?
Yeah, it depends. My son, here in Virginia loves to play golf. So it's, taking a Saturday with him. My daughter here that's in the business, it's spending time with her, like going to lunch and just having a one-on-one conversation. Yeah. With our daughter and son-in-law out west, they're ranchers. Our daughter's a teacher. They got the grandkids. Really easy to interact with them, because there's always something going on with the grandkids. Mm-hmm. And then our son out there loves to hunt. So I call him my hunting buddy, right? And he's my four-wheeling buddy, because that's one of my other passions. I like the four-wheel. And so he and I and his spouse and then my wife, we four-wheeled the Rocky Mountains. Oh, wow. So it's not hard to find the things what you have to commit to is making the time. And I got to tell you, I probably failed at it more than I've succeeded at it. So that's one of those things when you look back and you say you wished I had done this or wished you had done that, it's spending time with family. But I also know that, for example, when my son was in 7th grade and his team here in Warrenton went undefeated on their basketball, I was one of the few dads that could be there at 3:15, to see the game. But then I was also one of the few dads that was out after 5 o'clock till 7 or 8 o'clock working at night too. So, but the blessing was that I could put that in my schedule,
right?
And that's always been important to me. And I think if you ask him, he would probably say it was important to him too.
Yeah. It's just making it happen, and you obviously can have the flexibility when you're the owner, but you can also allow the business to totally consume your life. You guys gotta stand your ground in some ways.
Well, probably one of the key words would be discipline. You have to be disciplined. So you have to be disciplined to set goals, but you also have to be disciplined to schedule all the appointments, to see all the people, to make sure those goals happen. So, one of my isms is if you want to be successful, you have to get out amongst them. Okay. And that's as simple as getting out amongst them, whether it's being at a Fauquier Chamber event, going to a local realtor function, going to a local builder's function, and I did all of those things, and I can add more to that, being part of community, efforts. I mean, there's times when you have to give back. We're really big in giving back to the community, and without even talking about the business, to give back. But it's amazing when you do that, you just can't outgive. You get relationships back that you never planned on. But the only way you got that is you have to get out there amongst them. So, it's just been one of my buzzwords for years is you just want to be successful. You got to do that.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. Earlier you were mentioning mentoring the people who are basically running the business now, and you're kind of guiding them and everything. So many people complain as business owners that they can't find good people. They can't find good employees. So how have you assembled a great team that works with you?
Finding good folks is a challenge. We're blessed now. We're probably the best group. There's about, I think, 23 of us now. It's probably the best group we've ever had. And I think part of the reason is because I've let go of those things several years ago, where we have a couple of our key people, Jack and Scott, who are working with all the staff now. And I think because they're closer to them and they found out what's important to them. And through that, we've been able to help. You say you want to motivate people. I think it's hard to motivate people because motivation to me is from inside, right? So what we've tried to do is create an environment where they can motivate themselves. And so that is a challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge because that's, work is still work, right? Yeah. Everybody, here still has families, and in the year 2020, if there's been a challenge, the most challenging year ever, but we were blessed from a technology standpoint because of what Vicki here did and our IT gentleman that we work with. They had us prepared. I mean, we never thought about COVID-19 and remote working. We thought of remote working as just short term to allow people to work from home for whatever reason, right? And but we were blessed as when that day came, and for 2.5 months, all of our people, except a few, work from home, and they could just unplug here at the offices and go plug in at home, and so we learned a lot through that. And that makes it more of a challenge because it's easy when we're like this. Yeah. But when it's over, a computer, you can still get a certain vibe, but it's still not, it's harder to develop teamwork that way. But I will tell you what, our team's actually excelled this year, and I've been really, really proud of them and pleased with them. And even now we've decided, because we try to be good citizens, and I won't share my opinions about, the do's or the don'ts, but one of the things I will say is trying to be a good citizen. Our governor asked us if you can have people telework from home. He would like us to do that through January, so we sent all of them home last Monday, with the exception of a few, to work at least through the middle of January remotely. So so I know it's a long-winded answer. No, but that's basically how we try to develop a team. Right. But yes. The challenge is finding good folks that are, I want to use the word like-minded. Yeah. That at least share us the concern we have, which is, we've always said we want to find a need and fill it, right? So I want people that really have a heart for helping other people. And then, of course, in our industry and in our business, that's our job, is to help people find solutions to problems. And,
right.
So you want people that have at least that. If they have that feeling, then there's a pretty good chance they'll be successful within our business.
Yeah. And you've developed that culture because that's who you are. And
yeah, I would say that's part of leadership. Yeah, I think it's part of our responsibility is to set the culture. Absolutely. And they know from a faith perspective why I want to establish that culture. Again, it's I'm a steward of this business, this company, and I want to make sure that it's well taken care of. But the company is only people. We have two sets of people: those that work with us and those that we work for. My son said years ago, when he was probably 9 or 10 years old, he said, "Dad, I want to be like you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you want to be like me?" He said, "Well, I want to be my own boss." And at the time, we probably had about 3,000 clients. And I said, "You need to understand something, son. I have 3,000 bosses."
Yeah.
So we look at it that way. We realize our clients across, and it's predominantly up and down 29 because our offices go from Fairfax to Culpeper, Madison, or prominent in that area. But again, they're in multiple states. But we want to let them know that we're here for them, that it's not about us, it's about them. So it's not about me, it's about the staff around me. But for them, it's the clients that we represent and the prospects, because obviously every day we get to talk to some new people that hopefully will become clients.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. Another thing you were talking about is working on your business now predominantly. Why do you think a lot of people might struggle to go from working in their business to working on their business? Because I think there is a divide there. Some people are run into the ground by their business, and they complain about it, and they're always so busy and everything. They have those 3,000 bosses, and they're consumed by it. Sure. So how do you make that jump? What stops people?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that's where a lot of businesses, I'm not going to say fail, that's not the right word, but that's where they quit growing.
Right.
So for me, the natural thing is doing what we're doing. I love to sit in somebody's home and help them with their insurance and financial needs. I love to be in front of a business owner, helping them with their business needs, right? From an investment standpoint, obviously helping people with 401ks or IRAs and their life insurance and things. That I enjoyed that tremendously. I worked hard at it. That's where my 12-hour days and 60-hour weeks, that's what I did to build the business, to work in the business. I realized at some point, though, that in order to truly grow, I had to do it through others, one, and two, through acquisitions. And so it was, I don't want to say it was natural, it wasn't, because what I started doing then was seeking out business owners, both in the industry and out of the industry, and started asking questions. So I got good at the balance sheets. I good at the profit and loss statements. I got pretty good. I mean, I still hopefully, my CPA, I have an accounting firm that does my month-to-month stuff. I have a CPA that overlooks all that. So I had to learn all those questions. I had to learn all that. But once I got into that and started feeling confident enough, that at least, again, to get out of my comfort zone, because again, it was part of getting out of your comfort zone, we started bringing on more people. Started looking at insurance agencies where the agent didn't have a successor, wanted to sell, and being able to structure that and put those opportunities together so that when that person sold to me, they were so happy that in their community, they would say, "Hey, listen, if you need insurance, go see Keith and his group," right? Right. If you need investments, go see Keith and his group, or Mr. Business Owner, go see Keith and his group. So we always want to make sure that I use the word purchase their goodwill.
Right.
Right. And so we treated people the way I'd want to be treated. So I don't know how many, Austin, altogether, we probably bought 10 or 12, businesses, insurance businesses over the last decade and a half, probably. Yeah. But because of that, then it gave us the opportunity to learn about debt, and learn about, how to structure, payments, and also I'm adverse to debt, how to get out of it quick. Yeah. I also learned a lot about taxes, going through that process.
I'm sure.
What's the difference between buying an asset versus buying goodwill, and also that helps you in your negotiations. So I won't go into any more depth, but that's that's all the things I've had to learn over the last decade and a half. as I'm working on the business instead of in the business, if you will.
Right.
And the way I do work in the business, there are still clients that have my cell phone number.
Right.
I hardly ever hear from them because they know if they really want to get it done or get it done right, they gotta talk to one of the team. Yeah, so it's allowed me to invest back in the community as well, and do some things that I couldn't do when I was working those long hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And I know that I can tell that you're a very humble person, but what would you say are some of your favorite ways to give back to the community?
Well, one of the things we did is my daughter, her full-time salary and her job is to give back to the community. So she's involved in 4 chambers where we have offices, and she does work for the town council. There's a couple members that ask her to do things. For example, we were, I think, the platinum sponsor for the parade, and I'm not sure how all that worked. But one of the folks came to her and asked us to do that. She was part of the original group that the July 4th opportunity we all have now up at the wharf.
Okay.
She was on the front end of that, and she helps with just so many other things. I can't keep up with her. Yeah. So that was a big part.
Due to some technical difficulties with the visual equipment for today's podcast, you'll need to tune into the audio version to hear the remainder of the episode. And believe me, you don't want to miss it. This can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other of your favorite listening platforms. Thanks for listening today, and we'll see you next time.